Quickly, if you haven't already, my Substack link is in the description. I would love if you hop over there and subscribe. Check out the articles. They'll be coming regularly. Great new stuff this new year. Now, for today's video, we've talked about this as parts of other videos, briefly mentioning it in and throughout different segments, but I wanted to take this time to really dive into the conversation of the insanity of Trump's possible plan to privatize the post office, why it's dangerous, frankly stupid, and how it would destroy the mail service that we've come to know while pricing millions from receiving needed packages, emergency packages. Sam Seder made this point, and I want to reiterate it here before we watch this clip, because it's honestly a good one. If we're talking about footholds, staples, things that defined America, at least in a positive right, imperialism and things aside, public schools and public mail service were pretty much it for the first 100 years. So why would we just erode that? But let's watch this Trump clip first and the ones that sparked these talks, and we'll be back after and see what we have to say about it.
Thoughts on the Postal Service? You mentioned Bezos a second ago, and I've always thought Bezos would be a key person to go in there and really streamline the logistics of the post office, but they lose billions.
Well, there is talk about the Postal Service being taken private. You do know that. Not the worst idea I've ever heard. It really isn't. It's a lot different today with between Amazon and UPS and FedEx and all the things that you didn't have. But there is talk about that.
Okay, first off, fire this journalist because he has no idea what he's talking about. I guarantee he is from some right-leaning website or something that's just trying to get this clip. The post office doesn't lose billions a year. They've operated in a deficit because of pre-funding requirement regulations imposed on them under the Bush administration, which made them essentially pre-fund healthcare for people not even born yet, for retirees and veterans, fund veteran benefits as well for some reason, even though it's supposed to be the US Treasury's job, which costs them billions each year and makes up 90% of the deficit that they've operated at. And without that, their operation costs would hardly be billions of dollars in deficit a year. The benefit provided from it, however, from guaranteeing a mail service, it should be pretty obvious, but that's worth whatever the cost would be. Imagine you can't afford to receive important mail or packages. Same with sending, right? Whether it's governmental stuff, jobs, or family items or anything. Imagine being told shipping is $300 for your grandma's medicine because you live in the middle of nowhere and it's snowing and it wouldn't be profitable to bring it to you otherwise. And I don't know if this journalist is stupid or if he's being bad faith here, but the level to which USPS subsidizes these other private carriers is insane. Saying that I think Bezos is the perfect guy to streamline this process. How do we think Bezos gets all of these packages to his trucks? It's USPS planes and carriers. USPS workers work for Amazon. At that extent, they work for FedEx and UPS. It's literally the USPS workforce that is subsidizing these companies' workforces and allowing them to operate how they do. But capitalist brain rot is what has these right-wing sycophants analyzing profit as the merit for public good. Let's leave that to the for-profit businesses. Public goods are meant to meet the public's needs, of which the Postal Service overwhelmingly does. The thing is, if you have a guy like Louis DeJoy as the Postmaster General, super conservative, private interest, Trump guy, and he's there to make no mistake, his goal is to ensure the post office will fail, will have its fail, so the Republican Party can then be like, look, it's failing, let's privatize it, and it becomes more of a topic of discussion so they can enrich their donors, the only people who will benefit off this, like the Bezoses, right? You see this with Social Security and Medicare as well. It's like the oldest trick in the book from conservatives, but it's the underlying principle here, I think, that should really scare the working class away from Republicans, right? They don't care if a benefit a service provides or a product brings helps the public. They don't care to what extent it helps the public. If something isn't profitable, the right will never think it's worth it. What that means is, under the right's worldview, cancer treatment is pointless because you're always going to be losing money. If that medicine or that health treatment, that operation your grandma is relying on isn't profitable to sell, it's not going to be produced. If that field of study, they can't charge you enough for that degree, you're not going to get that study. Like say goodbye to art studies or history or whatever it might be, right? Profit is put over the quality of life for the right, which again is a very weird way to view especially socialized services meant for the public. And I quickly also wanted to show this hilariously idiotic tweet that actually embodies the generic argument MAGA is taking up to support this further showing how they aren't at all independent thinkers. They don't research anything to come to their conclusions. They're literally just mindless drones who are uninformed on a topic and jump to good conclusions to support whatever their side likes. This is like so hilarious, this tweet here. It should be a Google search, right? Like if it's a Google search, you wouldn't be shamed. But it's laughable when you put it on Twitter and think it's an own. MAGA literally thinks like, whoa, well, Amazon sends me my package in 1 day. So these people are lying. Like, have you ever tried to send a letter to a rural middle of nowhere area through like FedEx or UPS? A letter alone is going to cost you like $20 or $30. And maybe that might be understating it, to be fair. So the answer is on how do these private companies ship to rural areas then is, well, they charge you an arm and a leg to do it. It's not like they like literally can't drive there. That's not the argument we're making. And not everyone is a billionaire like those who control the Republican Party and their decisions. So they can't just easily afford that much money for something as simple as a letter, especially when you extrapolate that to more important things again. And why guess here when we can be exact, right? Osgood, Indiana is a 2-road, middle of nowhere rural town in Indiana. Shipping a 10-pound, medium-sized box from California to Indiana, let's just say this is full of your grandma's medicines from her provider for the entire month, and she needs them to live. It's going to cost you north of $250 to get it in a reasonable time, like a day or two. Like let's say she's really, really needing them. She can't go without. It'll cost you north of $150. And this is the lowest option, north of $150, even if you wait a week. Or you could hop on USPS and get it in a few days for $20. Which one sounds like the better option for people? I mean, yeah, I think it's pretty obvious who wants the Postal Service privatized, the corporate owners. Who would benefit from this? The corporate owners. Or don't get me wrong, the top 10% who like are invested in these corporations and just want to profit off of it, right? Who would suffer because of this, though? That is the crux of the question here, and it's American workers, predominantly those in rural areas who rely on shipments to get things, whether it be medicine, equipment, groceries either, right? Whatever it may be. We can't be fooled by the billionaire class of Republicans to trade away our social safety nets and services, public goods and services for private products.